Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Hina Mazarudin and I am your Vice President for PAs in Virtual Medicine and Telemedicine. Today I'd like to continue a series of where we highlight some of our amazing PA members and how they work in their respective fields and utilize telemedicine. My intention is that this serve as an opportunity for us to connect and network together and also to highlight our amazing members. You know I believe that we are stronger together. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have the pleasure to introduce you to another amazing PA who I'm sure many of you already know because he contributes so much to PA students and their knowledge and education. Let me formally introduce you to Mike. Hi Mike, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Mike, can you start by stating your name, how long you've been a PA for, and the area of medicine that you practice in, please?
Sure. My name is Mike Sachs. I'm a family medicine PA, primarily family medicine. I do a bit in emergency medicine still, where I first started up. And I have been practicing now for 6 years.
All right, Mike, so tell me a little bit more about your experience with telemedicine, please.
Sure. So I've been using telemedicine in one capacity or another for about 3 to 4 years now. I went from using it in about 1% of my overall practice a year to using it. I mean, there were times where I was 100% telemed, especially when COVID first hit. And then we slowly started moving our way to having patients come in who were well, and we did all of our sick visits remotely. And now it's sort of a mixed bag. I do probably about 50% of my sick visits remote, 50% of my sick visits in person, all visits in person at this point.
That's awesome. Can you share with us the different types of telemedicine that you've used thus far, please?
Sure. So telemedicine generally divides up into two major categories, being asynchronous versus synchronous. So your asynchronous encounters are going to be, I'll give you an example from today. I had a patient who I saw for a physical last week. I ordered some screening labs. His thyroid screening hormone came out really elevated. I reached out to him. I couldn't get him on the phone initially to let him know his labs. So I wrote him a message through his MyChart, which is a secure platform that we can communicate with or through. And he wrote back to me. I wrote back to him. We had about 15, 20 different exchanges over a period of about 12 hours. And in that time, I laid out what was going on. I ordered repeat labs. I put together our plan of action. I sent him for repeat labs at a facility near his home because he's pretty distant from here. I sent him for an ultrasound of his thyroid just to make sure that everything was okay. And then we put together our plan and I sent a prescription over. So that would be your example of an asynchronous encounter. We probably have spent a total of maybe 20 minutes, but over a span of about 12 hours in that kind of encounter. So that I do a bit of, but the majority of my telemedicine is going to be split almost evenly between video encounters, which is face-to-face encounters, similar to what people experience with Zoom, or a telephone encounter, which my fingers are crossed that they're going to let us keep doing this forever because they're very, very useful for a big portion of my population. But those two different modalities have really different values, and I find times where one is more valuable than the other, and I sort of kind of lean that direction and hope that my front desk knows which one I want for each particular encounter.
And both these synchronous and asynchronous that you just shared with us are both billable?
They're both billable. They are billable pretty well. I mean, the asynchronous a bit less so, but the synchronous at this point is really par with what I get for in-person encounters.
Awesome. So you're really getting reimbursed for all the time that you really are putting in with your patients. That's great.
Yeah, especially since the new 2021 rollout of the Medicare Medicaid billing schedule. It's much better.
Absolutely. All right. Can you share with us what you like about telemedicine and what you find to be a challenge, please?
Sure. So those are kind of two sides of the same coin. What I love about telemedicine is it gives my patients access in a way that you can't conceptualize until you start playing with it. I keep telling my students that, and so many of them are so young that they really don't get the reference, but to the every once in a while student my age, that really where telemedicine is today is where the rotary phone was years ago. And now look at how far we've come. And that's like what kind of I expect telemedicine is going to be tomorrow. In the days to come, we're just going to have these big, big changes, but it's the access to care that really makes it so valuable, and why I think that we're financially going to be able to push that forward, because so many patients who otherwise, they work too much, maybe they're PAs who work 12-hour shifts and they don't have the time, they can't pick up and leave their ED shift to go and get checked out, but they can tuck away into a closet for a few minutes and do a video encounter. Many of my poorer patients who really, I always think of the mom in my practice who works 3 jobs, and like, it's a big undertaking to come in and see me. She has to take significant, financial loss every time she wants to see me. Plus she's paying her copay. But now she can, again, tuck away in a closet, take a bathroom break and reach out to me. And I think that is the most valuable part. So I think we're really going to intervene in people's healthcare crises very quickly and very early before they become an actual crisis. On the other side of that same coin, those same patients this is what I don't like. There's sort of this vulnerability where telemedicine has the potential to become the next healthcare disparity, right? Because as we're utilizing this technology and we're becoming really comfortable with it, especially if they move away from phone-only encounters without video, audio-onlys, I have patients who just don't have functional cameras to access with. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a serious detriment to their health. So I'm concerned about that, but otherwise, telemedicine has been incredible. Yes, it's a little bit hands-off at times. There certainly is a bit of a struggle in certain cases to make a personal connection, especially if it's just a phone encounter and you've never met the person. Mm-hmm. But you also develop ways around that. I've developed incredible relationships with my patients who then come in and see me for the first time in person for a physical months after I've spoken to them a couple times on the phone. And they love me and they remember me and they're so grateful for the service. And I'm trying to remember to myself, like, do I know this patient? Have I seen them before? Because, we get so accustomed to having visual cues, like, oh, I remember that person. I saw them in room 3 and this is what happened. But that's another downside, is I don't have my visual cues anymore.
Absolutely. But that's so great that you've really developed a really great website manner, whether it's having a synchronous connection like this or even over the phone, and to create, I guess, phone side manner, if that's a thing now. All right. One more final question for you, Mike. If you could share with us a clinical pearl or some words of wisdom with our PA students as well as our practicing PAs, what would that be, please?
Ooh. With regards to telemedicine, always be MacGyver. I don't know if anybody's old enough to get that reference, but know what possible things are around you at all times or around the patient at all times. And I mean that in both directions. Like, don't try to do a Romberg on an 85-year-old patient who's alone in their home. Pretty bad idea. But at the same time, I had a patient the other week who had she had this really bad bloody nose that she usually is able to control, but for the last 20 minutes was unable to control it. And she was in a state of panic, really like near hyperventilation, because she thought that she was bleeding out, which I was pretty confident she was not. But in about 2 minutes of discussing it with her, I was able to figure out she had Afrin and tampons in her home. And within about 5.5 minutes, we had Afrin tampon soaked, application in her nose. And then when she removed it, bleeding had stopped because Afrin's vasoconstricting and the tampon applied pressure. So you always have to be very MacGyver-ish, if you will, when you're approaching telemedicine encounters, because you just don't know what the real complaint is until you start digging, and you don't want to find out that this is something you actually need to be hands-on for without having a plan for, okay, well, then what am I going to do? So always think that way. What is there around, and at what point will I direct somebody to either be seen in person or see a high level of care?
Absolutely. So like you said, being aware of your surroundings, knowing what you have access to, knowing what you can and can't do, and then directing care accordingly.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. And before we sign off, I just wanted to let everyone know, please go to Mike's amazing Instagram page. He does a great job of sharing these wonderful clinical pearls, just like he shared with you today. There's so many more on his Instagram. Please check that out, as well as join us on Clubhouse. Mike does a fantastic job of hosting many different types of, podcast or speak talks. I don't even know what to call them now.
I don't even know what to call them.
But they are absolutely amazing. They are for everybody. They are for PA students. They are for practicing PAs, seasoned or not. Honestly, he does a fantastic one with the PA students with a pants review. I listen to it, so I am inviting you. Please come join us and come learn with us, and we'll all learn together. Thanks so much, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again. Go ahead, Mike.
Category 1 CME on Sunday.
That's right, Category C CME as well, Category 1. Come join us and we'll all learn together. Thanks so much, Mike. Bye.